Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Cobb, and we're going to be talking about some literary elements this week, especially plot and theme. But let's review some of the other literary elements before we talk about plot and theme. So if you remember from the beginning of the year and really throughout the year, we've talked about how in every fiction story, there's characters. And a character can be a person or animal in a story. Every fiction story also has a setting, and the setting is the time and place in which a story happens. The literary elements that we're really going to focus on and stress this week are plot and theme. Plot is the important events that make up the beginning and middle and end of the story. That's what makes up the plot. The big events at the beginning, the big events in the middle, and the big events at the end. The theme of a story is the big idea or the lesson that's in the story. A story's plot is the important events that happen. The plot starts with a problem and ends with a solution. The theme is the big idea of a story. Let's practice finding some of these elements of fiction. As I read this passage called The Ant and the Beetle, I want you to think about what the theme or the lesson is of the story. What lesson do you think the author wants to teach with this story? I also want you to be asking yourself what happens in the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story. And that will help you kind of summarize the story. Okay? The Ant and the Beetle, adapted from Aesop's The Fox and the Crow. Annie Ant stole a piece of cheese from an abandoned picnic and scrambled up on a rock. She was about to eat the cheese when she noticed a beetle nearby. The beetle had a plan. And if you see over here in the strategy, it says note the time order clues, about to and when. Okay, so it says she was about to eat the cheese when she noticed a beetle nearby. The beetle had a plan. My, I have never seen such a beautiful ant, flattered the beetle. From the tip of your antenna to the end of your abdomen, you are simply gorgeous. Finally, someone appreciates my beauty, Annie thought. You must be delicate, continued the beetle. Surely you are not strong enough to help the other ants. Said the insulted ant. To show him, Annie set down the cheese and lifted a huge rock over her head. The beetle grabbed the cheese and began to scurry away. Yes, you are strong, but you are also foolish. Okay, so let's think about what happened at the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story. So I know at the beginning of the story, Annie Ant steals a piece of cheese and then meets a beetle who has a plan. In the middle of the story, the beetle tricks her, and at the end of the story, the beetle steals the cheese. So what do you think the lesson is, or what do you think the author wanted to teach with this story? I think that ant learns that probably she should think before she acts. So I think the author is teaching us that you should think before you act. Now I know that bottom line is cut off a little bit on your screen. Yes, you are strong, but you are also foolish. Hopefully you can see it enough. I'd like you to pause this video and practice your out loud reading fluency, your oral reading fluency, by whisper reading or reading the story, the selection, 2 or 3 times to practice your fluency. So let's continue to practice finding the plot, the beginning, middle, and end of a story. and the theme, or the big idea. Okay, so remember, the important events in a story make up the plot with a beginning, middle, and end. The big idea of the story is called the theme, and it can be stated in a single sentence. Okay, so track with your eyes as I read this next story to you. The ants felt sorry for the grasshopper. He'd saved no food and was starving, so they shared what they had. The grasshopper swore he'd remember their kindness and repay them someday. When summer came, the ants were playing outside and accidentally hurt themselves. How would they gather their food? Just then, the grasshopper stopped by. When he heard what happened, he told the ants to climb on his back. The ants told the grasshopper where to go and what to gather. Soon the trio had all the food they needed for the winter ahead. Okay, so let's go back and think about the main parts of the story. What happened at the beginning? What happened in the middle? What happened in the end? Okay, so what happened at the beginning of the story? I see that the ants shared their food with a grasshopper. Okay, now let's think about the middle. What happened in the middle of the story? I see that the ants hurt themselves and they couldn't gather their food. What happened at the end of the story? Well, I see that the grasshopper helped the ants gather food. So what do you think the theme or big idea, what lesson could the author have been trying to teach us? And I think that the theme is help others, because one day you might need someone to help you. If you would like, you could practice your oral reading fluency with this passage as well. Have a great day.